I just finished a 2-hour interview. And afterwards, there was one line I kept turning over in my head. It wasn't the 70%. It was a different line. He said he goes and talks to people inside the labs about timelines, and what they tell him is this: your timeline still isn't short enough. Pull it in. Pull it back to 2027 or 2028. Sit with that picture for a second. A man the outside world treats as a doomer, being told by insiders that he's too slow. I'm relaying this. The primary source is that 2-hour interview on the Diary of a CEO, published July 13th in English.
The host is Stephen Bartlett. The guest is Daniel Kokotajlo. The original runs 2 hours and 50 seconds. This is not a secondhand retelling. One more thing. The retellings circulating in Chinese don't fully match the original. One of those gaps matters quite a bit. We'll get to it.
First, let's place the man. In 2022, he joined OpenAI. The role was very specific, forecasting what the next few years would look like. That was his job description, not a hobby. In 2024, he resigned. His stated reason: the company doubled, then doubled again, then doubled again, and the new arrivals came from elsewhere in tech, drawn by high salaries, and those people hadn't really thought about any of this. Now I have to disclose the interests, and I mean on both sides. His side first. His actual job today is publishing AI risk forecasts. The risk is large is both his judgment and his current livelihood. That doesn't make him wrong, but you deserve to know he isn't a disinterested third party. The other side is the same. The people he names in that interview: Dario, Sam, Elon. Also not neutral parties. They're racing each other. Fast pays them too, commercially and in raw power. Both sides have a stake. I'm not picking one. I'm putting both stakes on the table. Now, that number. The host asked him this. If nothing changes, are we heading somewhere bad? He said yes. Then he gave a figure. 70%. But this next part has to travel with it. What he said immediately after was this: I'm not confident in that. This sort of thing is very, very hard to predict.
His exact words: I'm not confident in that. It's very, very hard to predict.
There's a second thing to get right. His other phrasing was that there's a 70% chance this goes horribly wrong, like human extinction. Listen to the half sentence after it. That's one possibility. There are many more. So the accurate version is not 70% extinction. It's 70% heading somewhere bad, and extinction is one of the bad outcomes. That difference is not small, and you don't get to drop it when you relay this. Now, here's the gap I mentioned. The most widely circulated version goes like this. To win the right to speak freely, he gave up $2 million in equity. You've probably seen that. In the original, the host asks about it twice. After the second time, his answer is this: I gotta keep the money.
His words: I gotta keep the money.
Here's what actually happened. After he left and finished the paperwork, the exit documents included a clause saying, in effect, that he agrees never to criticize the company. He wouldn't sign. The story broke, and the company withdrew the clause. So he gave up $2 million describes the moment he made the choice, when he was prepared to lose it. It does not describe how it ended. I'm pulling this one out deliberately, and not to nitpick. It's because details like this are the first thing sanded off in layer after layer of retelling. And once it's sanded off, the story gets better and less true. Okay, back to the real point. On the surface, this interview is an argument about one thing: whether AI gets out of control. But after 2 hours, my read is that the real disagreement isn't there. The real disagreement is this: who exactly is pulling the timeline forward? Common sense says the whistleblower should be the most alarmed person in the room, and the insiders should be the ones pulling back, saying, relax, it'll take longer than that. It runs the other way.
His words. He goes to talk forecasting with people at Anthropic and OpenAI, and what they say is this: it's not going to take that long. You need to shorten them again. Get them back to 2027 or 2028.
His explanation. because a handful of powerful CEOs are racing each other. That changes the shape of the whole thing. It isn't a technical argument between people who think it's fast and people who think it's slow. It looks more like a room where everyone knows they're accelerating, and nobody dares lift off the pedal alone. We've seen that shape before, in something we talked about recently. 1,171 employees at Frontier Labs signed a letter asking the government to back tools that could deliberately slow the frontier. The key line in that letter was this: "Those tools do not exist yet." That letter was written by people still working inside. This interview is one man who already walked out. Both land in the same place. It's not that they don't want to slow down. They can't. Let's set out the chairs. There are at least 5 here. I'll place them one at a time, and I'm not sitting in any of them. Chair 1, the forecaster himself. His position: the default path leads somewhere bad, so somebody has to write down the probabilities and the timeline, because you can't argue about what nobody wrote down. His weak spot: that is also, precisely, what he does for a living now. Chair 2, the people running the labs. Their position: this gets built no matter what, so better that people who care about safety build it first. That argument has real force. It also happens to be an argument that permits you to keep accelerating. Chair 3, ordinary employees inside the labs. The new arrivals he described. Came from other tech companies, drawn by high salaries, hadn't really thought about any of this. I want to be clear, this chair is not the villain. For most people, a job is a job. That's true in every industry. Chair 4, government and voters. His read is that by 2028, AI could be the single most important issue in the presidential election. The setup in their scenario document goes like this. The companies intend to get there in 2030, and in 2029, the government steps in and temporarily shuts it down. Let me flag that. This is a scenario exercise, not an established fact and not a prophecy. It's a hypothetical script written to be argued with. Chair 5, and the one I think most deserves to be heard. Ordinary people on the receiving end of all this. He sat down in this chair himself, and very concretely.
He said he told his wife, "Let's not have any more kids. It's too uncertain." He said, "I don't think they'll ever join the workforce."
I'm relaying that as he said it, and I'm not going to build anything on top of it. A man whose profession is forecasting applied his own forecast to his own family. That fact is worth writing down. Whether he's right. He said himself, he isn't confident. And I want one thing to be unambiguous. A person made a very large personal decision on the basis of a 70% that he himself calls uncertain. That decision belongs to him. It is not advice to you, and it is not a forecast about you. So what can you actually take from this chair? In my view, not decisions on the scale of whether to have children. Something much nearer. In the work you do now, which parts are somebody handing you a task and you executing a process, and which parts are you deciding what should be done at all? The first is what gets squeezed first. The second, so far, hasn't been. That distinction is useful this year. You don't have to wait until 2029. There's a piece of his proposal aimed straight at this chair, too. He and his colleagues wrote 2 documents that are completely different in kind, and a lot of retellings blend them into one, so let me pull them apart. The first is called AI 2027. That one is a prediction. How they think things will actually go. The second is called AI 2040. That one is a proposal. How they think things should go.
His words. AI 2027 was our best guess prediction as to how things would actually go. AI 2040 Plan A is our recommendation for how things should go.
The 2040 in the name means that in this plan, superintelligence gets built in 2040 rather than sooner, because it was deliberately slowed down. Note that, not a stop, a speed limit. He gives 2 reasons. Manage the risks and make sure power ends up distributed equitably. The second reason is the one he actually cares about. He uses a heavy word in that interview to describe where we are. A power grab.
His phrase is power grab. The scene he describes. Whoever gets there first is sitting on top of an army of superhuman AIs, and that hands them enormous leverage over every other actor in the economy.
Then comes the part about slicing the pie. They call it the citizen's dividend. Roughly, the mechanism is this. You set up an agency that sells permits to the robot companies and the compute companies, it profits from selling those permits, and the whole population holds shares in that agency and gets paid out. The starting figure he gives is around $25,000 per person. The end state figure. Let me get ahead of this. It's large enough that you'll want to laugh.
He says the end state is roughly $10 million per citizen, per year. The host asks, per person? He confirms per person, per year, and says that already accounts for inflation.
This is a proposal, not a prediction, not a roadmap, and certainly not a promise. I'm relaying it because it's what this camp is actually arguing for, in full. What they want isn't only a slowdown. It includes how the pie gets cut afterwards. Whether that number holds up, I don't assess. I'm not equipped to assess it. I'll only leave you with this. When you hear a number large enough to sound unreal, first ask whether it's a proposal or a prediction. This one is a proposal. All right, historical coordinates. Which moment in history does this resemble? I'll give you 3 answers. They end differently, and I'm not picking one for you. First, the Manhattan Project. Among the scientists who built the bomb, some signed a petition before it was dropped, asking for a demonstration first, rather than use on a city. The petition went up the chain. The chain didn't change. The bomb was dropped. The answer this coordinate gives. An insider's moral signal may change nothing at all. Second, the Asilomar Conference in 1975. After recombinant DNA arrived, a group of molecular biologists halted some of their own experiments, met, wrote rules, and then carried on under those rules. Biotech didn't stop. It got a framework. This coordinate gives the opposite answer. Self-imposed speed limits have genuinely happened, and they didn't kill the field. Third, climate change. The forecasts came early, the consensus came early, the timetable kept getting revised, and action stayed permanently behind the forecast. The damage didn't land on a single day. It accumulated the whole way. This coordinate gives a third answer. Neither prevented nor ended, but the entire line shifted sideways. Everything happens, just slower than anyone predicted, and slow carries its own bill. I don't know which one this is. I'm giving you 3 because handing you only Asilomar is comforting you, and handing you only the Manhattan Project is frightening you. I don't want to do either. Last, my take and what I'll be watching. My take is 1 sentence. The most informative thing in this interview isn't the 70%. It's that insiders think his timeline isn't short enough. A probability is one person's judgment. It can be right or wrong, and he says himself he isn't confident. But people in the room urging each other to go faster is an observation about right now, and it doesn't need to wait until 2029 to be checked. One person predicting the future, you can discount. A group of people doing something, you'd better take seriously. 3 signals I'll be watching. 1. Whether what he described gets said independently by somebody else. Whether a second and a third person walks out of a lab and describes the same internal push to go faster. 1 person saying it is a position. 3 people saying it is a phenomenon. 2. Whether the break goes from doesn't exist to exists. That was the key line in the signed letter, and it's the actual bottleneck in this entire story. Until the tools show up, every conversation about slowing down stays talk. 3. Whether the pie slicing part reaches a real agenda. Proposals like the citizen's dividend are still just documents a few people wrote. Either they stay documents, or one day they become some candidate's platform. The line between those 2 outcomes will be very easy to see. As for you and me, same thing I said before. What you can do this year isn't relocating your anxiety to 2029. It's sorting the work in front of you. Which parts are execution and which parts are judgment? Do more of the second. That's where I'll leave this one. Next one, coming up.